What's up everyone, this is Sharon talking, welcome back to my channel. Today video we'll be doing a review for Romancing Saga Festival Arthur banner. This is a Game Boy related banner with characters that don't have any future style. Arthur is a farmer, Sharon is a farmer for single target stages, Borgin is a boss specialist while also can farm well. But these characters only have these versions. They can be good for some people, not so good for others, but Arthur it is indeed a premium farming style and the best character for long-term utility of the banner. Let's talk about Arthur. We have 108% STR and 90% agility. His STR is not the highest one. We have characters with even 115%. His agility is pretty high for a farmer, and he has arrows and bonuses for both. The good thing is that Arthur does not sacrifice the other status. His endurance, dexterity, and will are actually very okay. You can even get those status by his S style if you want to farm. That means that he can actually be used in boss fights, but it's not on his prime. You can use it only if you are lacking other slash boss specialists. For the first passive, we have Energizing Breath 1 STR. On the start of a turn, and every turn, he gets a 15% buff to his STR and recovers 1 BP. That means that Arthur has access to 4 BP by a turn, and every turn he gets an STR buff that will stack. Although he's a farmer, if you want to use him in boss fights, buffing his STR will help. The best part of this is that in the current meta, characters that buff themselves get more out of weapon that you craft, because we already have way too many passives on the weapon itself. Buffing STR gives you more value, and getting 1 BP gives him access to perfect AoE cycles, but more into that later. Then the second passive is called Missile Support. When he lands an attack once per round only, he will activate Talon. That's the airship from his game. It will come to the battlefield and use an AoE attack with C power, but only on rank 1, that deals blunt and hit damage. That is what makes Arthur so special. He attacks once and gets a chase AoE attack, and that deals blunt and hit damage with C power. But he is an AoE specialist. You're gonna use an AoE attack and then chase with another AoE attack. That makes Arthur look like he's actually two characters at once. But I'll explain the problems with Talon later. Then we have Fired Up 6. This increases damage by 30% at all times. So 30%, STR buff, 4 BP by a turn, and chase with Talon. Now let's move on to skills. The first one is called Earth Slash. For 4 BP we get an AoE attack with D power and 12 modifier. While this is stronger than Rick and Rapina attack, and then we will compare them through this video. Rick has D power 10 modifier, but Rick uses only 3 BP and has heat. So yeah, Rick is better on this. But when we compare to Rapina, it's actually better than Rapina, since Rapina uses 4 BP and it's only 10. But Rapina carries Sun element. I much prefer having double elements and just a little extra power. But then you can use this all the time with Arthur at least. Then we have the second skill called Sky Flash. For 6 BP we have a single target attack that deals slash S power 39. Actually, this can also be compared to Rick, because having a nerf, an attack that many characters has access to either by having itself or by amplify, has the same damage and also medium chance to stun. So actually nothing special, but it's good. For 6 BP it's not bad. Then the last attack is called Infinity Trajectory. For 10 BP, what we get is an 8 power 30 modifier attack that is fast. It was changed in global. He's a fast attacker, and well, it's his strongest attack for opening. He can open with this. You can use him together with other farmers if you want, and you can use Magia Fight formation, for example. That will work well. Being fast makes him easier to use, but actually most of the time people use Arthur for more than one wave farming, so he needs to keep doing AoE. When you have Infinity Trajectory, you go first and then you use Earth Slash as long as you want. We can also compare Infinite Trajectory for other attackers. We can say that Rick has a better attack, it has power in 39 instead of 30, and carries Heat element. Well, another character that we compare is Rapina again. Rapina has a higher power, 32 exactly. She has 32 A power, but carries Sun. So they still have better openers than Arthur itself. What makes Arthur better most of the time is that he will chase his attack with Talon. And even if the enemy resists at least one of the elements, he has two. So most of the time it will do neutral damage and will increase his AoE damage to close or double S power when you hit neutral. Meaning that he beats it all, but the first hit will not do more damage. And you have problems with elemental coverage. He is mainly a slash damage dealer. If you want full heat damage, maybe it's better to bring Rick. If you want full sun damage, it's better to bring Urpina. See, he does not totally replace these farmers. He just adds an extra level of damage type, but carries its own problems with himself. So while Infinite Trajectory may not beat Urpina and Rick all the time, I can tell you that Earth Slash will on Wave 2 and Wave 3. If you are farming, then Earth Slash goes and then he chases with missile support. That means that he is actually two characters in one. While Urpina and Rick will be doing their weak attack, he will be doing double weak attack, meaning that it's close to double damage when compared to them. And that is why everyone loved Arthur on release on JP, because he can actually solo farm some stages. But not all stages, guys. Needs to be a stage where he will hit to at least one weakness and then a neutral at least damage. When I consider both attacks, if he's resisted with one of the attacks, I can tell you that he will not be able to clear by itself. But if Arthur cannot solo farm, why are you bringing Arthur in the first place? It's easy to bring two units to farm most story stages, for example. That's where he's gonna shine the most. Although he can be very well used for events with two waves, he totally shines on story mode because he can double attack all three waves. So he is going to work, but not all the time. And that is something that I want you guys to understand. If you want to summon for Arthur, you need to see how much he is going to bring for your party and where he's gonna be used. If you have like outward instant kill strategies, you know that sometimes he can kill two waves by himself. Arthur is gonna replace those types of strategy. He's gonna do it by himself. Another character can sometimes do this is Bertrand. But Bertrand is not as strong as Arthur most of the time. He needs a companion to help him get BP back and keep attacking. So Arthur Valo is on solo farm. If he cannot solo farm, he's just another farmer that will help you like Rick does, like Christmas Urpina does, but with a different mechanic that will beat them most of the time, but not exactly always. Arthur is actually also useful for boss fights if you are missing out on another specialist. I can tell you because of the inheritance. He has this attack called Dragon Summon. This one is B power 25 mod. What you can do is open the fight, use Sky Flash 3 times and then stick to use Dragon Summon. It's B power 25 and he can use all the time. It's actually very strong. So on raids it also works pretty easily, to be honest. And then he also has another inheritance called Sonic Slash. This one is now interesting global because you can just, well, let's say that you are farming on a stage that has many enemies on the first wave. He's gonna use Infinite Trajectory and then chains with Talon, and let's say that he clears the first wave. Then on the second wave, he can just use Sonic Flash to trigger his Talon again and help out another character doing a better attack that needs to be used on turn 2, for example, because it has like 13 VP coast and things like that. So Arthur can also be used in these teams, usually on Magia fight formation when you are farming events. And I guess these are the best inheritances. Dragon Slayer is 8 VP coast. I don't think it's so special, giving critical damage against dragons, but it's only double S power. So yeah, Arthur is gonna be used in farming. And if you are missing out on boss specialists, you can use Sky Flash 3 times and stick to Dragon Summoning. Besides this, it's all about Infinite Trajectory and Earth Slash as much as you want. So Arthur is a small upgrade over Rick, but it's still an upgrade, especially from turn 2 on wave 2 onwards. I will be giving him a triple S grade, and I have to say another thing about Arthur. he will be useful in meta right now, and even in the short future. In the short future, we'll see events with stages with enemies aligned in a row and a column. And many times you have to use a row and a column attack that will come from future styles, since we barely have characters that can do that besides Summer Katarina and Waterfall Blade with high damage. And then Arthur will still be able to use AoE attack in these scenarios, because his damage potential is still pretty high, especially if you craft a very strong weapon dedicated for him. So he's gonna stay relevant for the next meta, but then in the future they are gonna give some even stronger attacks for row and columns that are like double S, even triple S, and that is when Arthur starts to fall off a little, because he cannot finish waves by himself. He's gonna need help, and when he needs help, it's usually better to bring two other characters that can do it by themselves than using Arthur. That is actually similar to having two characters attacking, and you have to wait for a second one to do a third attack. See, that's why people start to drop Arthur from farming scenarios, but in global he's stronger. He even has a fast attack, so I can tell you that he will be useful for the foreseeable future, and even when he's not on his prime, he will still help out with damage. That's why I think Arthur is the best character here, but he is still a farmer, and even if he has a triple S grade, you can skip him if you want, if you are focusing on remembrance battles and on boss specialists. Arthur can be skipped if you don't have the gems. The next character is Borgin. This character uses spears and carries the sun element because he's actually a hybrid unit that needs both SDR and intelligence to perform well. As you see, he has 100% for bolt status and bonuses and arrows for them. He's not exactly a prime damage dealer, he has a very low endurance, and he suffers from his need of having all status. Dexterity is only 70%, it's been a while since I saw a character with such a low dexterity. He may even miss in some content, but his will is not as bad as his endurance, at least. He needs love because he's a healer, so you see, it's a problem when you are on hybrid unit, you need all, but you can't get it. Then we have his S style that focus on older status like dexterity, agility, and will, so that you can farm those status easily, similar to Arthur. For passives, we have Revitalize Tree. On the end of the turn, he has a 25% chance to recover his own HP by around 700, and then 3 BP points as well. He does have some spells with high cost, so he needs to get BP back, and it's a lot of RNG, 25%. But on the average of 4 turns you get 3 BP, it's not that bad. Then the second passive is Hyper Hull Boost Tension. Damage increases by 20%, and when he is on full HP, increases by 15% further. I don't know why he has a passive with HP, because he does not evade, he does not heal all the time. So in a boss fight, you hardly stays on full HP. So you just get 20% most of the time. Then there's High Protect Tension, giving him 20% increase at all times, and then 30% damage resistance. That is actually pretty nice. If you are using him on a boss fight, he will receive less and gets at least 40% increase at all times, or 55% when on full HP. Well, that is Borgin Kit. For skills, we have Lens of Light, a 5 AP attack that can debuff intelligence and hits for Pierce and Sun with deep power. As you see, the modifier is pretty similar to Arthur, but one more point. Lens of Light could have been only 4, because actually we do have characters with 4 AP skills that can debuff, especially someone that is still very good for this, and that is Zosma. Zosma has Mirage Step. Well, it's a little weaker, but it has 4 BP cost. And then we also have another character that is Monica. Monica deals that with even less. Monica deals with only 3 BP, and she can keep using this, and she even buffs her dexterity and intelligence to not miss and not fail to debuff. So when you compare this to Borgin, it feels lacking, because even though it carries double element, if you want to debuff, you are here for the effect and not for the damage, and he will just sometimes not have enough BP to debuff. You have to rely on RNG to get BP back. Then the second skill is Healer. This one is a sun spell that heals everyone and even revives. It's actually pretty nice, and it has the same power as Rain of Life. We can even compare this to Undine, for example, she has Ray of Life in her Global X style. As you can see here, also 12 mod. So in a boss fight, sometimes you may need extra help. He may not be your main healer, but when you need, he can even revive. Pretty nice. Then the last attack is Holy. For 10 BP, you get an 8 power AoE attack with 29 mod that also does critical against Undead and Demon. So it's actually pretty nice. If you want to use him for farming, he gets 40% increase at all times, or even 55 when farming on full HP. So the damage won't be bad. Sadly, his intelligence may not be so high, but the power of the skill is. And then you can inherit something from his S style, that is Light Ball Plus. That it's now amplifiable in all the characters that have access to Light Ball, and it's the power 11. It's just the same thing as Lance of Light. So for 2 BP less, you get a full cycle of AoE, and he can keep using. That is not bad. So at least he has a full AoE cycle. From his S style, you can also inherit Light Streak Lunge. This is the same attack that Metroid has access to. That also deals critical against Undead and Demons, but this one is a physical attack, so you can just equip a spear, Basil on SDR, and keep using Light Streak Lunge. Eventually he will get 3 BP back, and you can use this most of the time. It's strong for what it is. And the other attack is Heatwave Plus. Well, Heatwave Plus has a similar damage, this time is 10, and has a chance to debuff Agility. Well, if you don't have Princess White Rose or the first version of Dune, Heatwave Plus is also something that you can find on Mei Ling. Mei Ling has a similar build, to be honest, and she was released not much time ago. She doesn't have much intelligence like him, but she beats him, and she has Heatwave Plus, with also a chance to recover BP. In her case, she recovers 5 but doesn't heal, but Heatwave Plus is also something that she uses all the time. In a boss fight, if you want to debuff Agility, you have to keep casting it over and over again. But she only has single target heal instead of AoE that Borgin has. I believe that Borgin is actually better than Mei Ling if you consider everything that he has access to with just one style. He can debuff Agility, he can debuff Intelligence, he can do okay sheep damage with Pierce and Sun, then he can just also debuff Intelligence. So I do believe that Borgin has some uses. He is a hybrid that tries to cover for styles that you've missed in the past. In my opinion, Yunjin is better, for example, or Dune is better, Halloween Princess White Rose is better. They do things that he does in different cases. He also loses to the intelligence specialists like Monica or Zosma. So, in the end, Borgin works, but he is a hybrid that can be used mostly for new players that miss it out on these things. There's also some competition against Metroid. We just got the Metroid and she has an AoE heal that adds a shield for the lower coast even. She gets access to 4 BP every turn, and when she has to heal, she gives 1 evasion to everyone. So, if you are thinking about Remembrance Battle, Borgin is not needed if you have Metroid, but maybe if you are still lacking other good pierce damage dealers, you can bring them together. It will just work. This character really looks like a Swiss knife. Does a lot of things, but never the best character on doing any of the things that he actually does. But very valuable for new accounts since he covers many bases with just this style without needing of any inheritance. So well, Borgin is gonna receive a double S grade and stay on the mid-high tier on the tier list. The last character is Sharon. She's a club user with high STR and agility, kinda similar to Arthur. She works better when farming events than actually doing boss fights, but you can also use her there, and I'll try to talk about that. Well, her endurance, dexterity, and will does not suffer too much. The status are actually okayish. Her intelligence is on 60%, and she needed more than that because she's a status inflictor and debuffer. It's funny when her S style actually has 57% and the SS style only has 16, and this was even buffed in global, so it could be even worse. But the STR and agility status are pretty nice for farming. She even has arrows and bonus, and the other status can be found on her S style. For passives, we have Power Charge 3. On starts of battle, she gets +3, so she starts with 13. Then the second one, Club Counter. When being directly attacked, she has a 37% chance to evade the attack and counter with 3-point blow. An attack that has deep power, use it on skill rank 1, and recovers her BP by 3. She wants to use that if you want to get her into boss fights, but this is not exactly reliable, although she is not so fragile like some other counters. It's not so easy to place her in the front line in some formations. It's just more about when an enemy has an AoE direct attack that can be countered, and then she just occasionally counter. Then the third passive is fired up 6. She gets 30% increase at all times. So her damage is lower than Arthur and even than Borgin. When you think about, she has the lowest damage capabilities by status and passives. But let's talk about skills. The first one is called Sucker Strike. With 0 BP, you have a little extra damage than normal attack, and it's only here because of the way that she wants to work in auto setups, since her second skill is her main selling point. Infinite Hell has 8 BP cost only, it was changed in global, and it hits between 3 to 5 times with critical against bone enemies. The hits are based on E power only, so pretty similar to a normal attack. But guys, 3 to 5 with only 8. Well, I can tell you how this is power creep by looking into Genie. Genie has an attack with her platinum style called Mountain Splitter. Of course, it's D, but it's just a small difference, and it costs 13 to hit between 3 to 5. So a large difference between a premium and a platinum unit. And they changed this so that she can use it twice in a row. And it's actually very strong. We can also compare this to another blunt attacker this time, that is Emilia, and we use that attack all the time. Commando Emilia has bullet dance. With 7 VP, she hits 3 times all the time. And some versions of her can use this twice. So when farming, the damage is comparable to Triple S with 3 hits. With a sheep coast. Now with Sharon, we can actually do at least triple S damage and then get as much as like 4S final damage if she hits 5 times. It's extremely valuable just for the damage, and because she has Power Charge 3, she uses this on turn 1 and then on turn 2. In very quick boss fights, you can use her, but then if she does not trigger her plus BP, I think that over time she just falls, because there are other characters that can self-buff and do damage, and in long fights they will perform better than Sharon. But if the fight does not take as many turns, Sharon will work well, especially if she hits 5 times. But there's even an extra fact: every single hit has a chance to paralyze. Well, remember when I said her intelligence is not that high? It is not. 60% will fail most of the time when you need to paralyze. It just won't fail in one place. Remembrance Battle. So yeah, she was made for Remembrance Battle in global. So you have 3 to 5 hits and 3 to 5 chances of hitting the real queen when she needs to be paralyzed. If she decides to hit the termites, well, bad luck, restart the fight, try again. You only need to do that battle once at least. But also, other characters in the future will be able to get amplified, or even future styles will come with paralyze for clubs. So you can wait if you want. Then the last attack is called Earth Buster. For 13 BP we get an AoE attack with blunt and heat damage with S power, 39 modifier like most attacks that has S power. It's not fast, but she has very high agility. It's not much of a problem. The problem here is that she does not have a follow-up. It's a very good attack that she can use on turn 1, but then what else can she use? She doesn't have another AoE attack that can be used as a follow-up. So Sharon is strong on turn 1 for AoE, but stops there. If you want to bring her in a boss stage that has multiple enemies, it just doesn't make sense. You open with a strong attack, and then you have to trigger her club counter many times to get BP back again and use Earth Buster. So yeah, I do believe that she caters more for single target than AoE. Now we can talk about inheritance. The first attack is Crushing Blow Plus. For 3 BP you get a B power attack with 21 mod that has a chance to debuff STR. Well, for 3 BP only, that's actually amazing. but she has only 60% intelligence, and the debuff will fail most of the time, unless you are bringing a lot of buffers to help her get a higher intelligence. Then the second attack, Blast Heal. For 5 VP we get deep power, 13 mod, so it's weaker, but it recovers her HP. If you are bringing her own Remembrance Battle, it's good to have this so that you can heal when the real queen's paralyzed, for example, and she gets full HP before you need to use the paralyze attack again. Then we have Wide Stamp. This is an AoE attack with 7 BP coast and C power 17 mod. It's actually not that bad in a character that can do at least some damage, but it only allows her to use AoE twice in a row. For farming setups, if the enemies are weak to blunt, it's okay if you don't have anything else. So these are the 3 inheritance attacks that she has. She does not fix all the problems. I guess if you want to use a full single target cycle, you get with Infinite Hell, and then turn 2 Infinite Hell again, and then from turn 3 onwards, you're just gonna use Crushing Blow. This is a full single target cycle. You don't have a full AoE cycle, you only have that AoE twice, and that is not even that strong. So she's gonna stay relevant only for single target. Sharon is good, just because she already competes with Emilia with 8 VP attack that can do even more damage, but I just have to say that this type of setup is only used in events mostly. I don't think it's so easy to place Sharon in the front line to try to get BP back and use powerful attacks every turn. You probably use another type of strategy where you have a real counter that deals more damage, and you use another damage specialist that prove to be better in long fights. She's more for fast fights where you need to have explosive damage and try to kill the boss before it gets into a mess. So she will also receive mid-tier double S grade because she competes with Emilia in this regard, and they will do similar damage, with Sharon always beating if she gets 4 to 5 hits. And for club users, we barely have damage dealers. It's good to have another club user for Remembrance Battle, even if you are not just thinking about Paralyze. She works as a damage dealer too. So 2 things at once. But also easy to skip if you have Rook and other club damage dealers and you already cleared Remembrance Battle. Well, with that said, she will receive a double S grade and stay on the middle of the tier list. Okay, so returning to the banner image, is this banner worth summoning for? Well, I guess I have to say that yes, for newcomers, because these characters do bring a lot of utility with their kits, but it's only a 3 character banner. You have a lot of chances of getting off banners. At least the new off banners are not as bad, but for veterans, they can find reasons to skip this banner if they already have Rick, Rupina, or other damage specialists for farming, like even Saruin, and they will not get too much out of Borgin if they already have the buffers, the better damage dealers, or if they already cleared Remembrance Battle and may not need Sharon. Just remember that we'll have more Remembrance Battles in the future, but Sharon does not have Confusion or Charm. Those are the future status elements that you need. You will only be using her for damage. So veterans can skip if they don't want to focus on another farmer unit, since Arthur is the star of the banner. Newcomers can get Arthur and just feel like they can now keep it up by having such a powerful unit. So it's up to you. Do you value farmers? I actually do. I like to have strong farmers to increase the amounts of characters I can train, since I have a very large roster. They don't always work in new events, so they are just dead weight. So that's why I'm gonna summon until I get Arthur. Once I get him, I'm gonna stop, unless I'm pretty close to Petey and I'll get Sharon and then Borgin. In my opinion, this is the order of preference, because at least Sharon can excel in something, while Borgin is just a lot of different things at once, but never the best in any of them. So that is my opinion. What is yours? Please say here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I hope to see you soon in the next video. Bye.